Hey guys, what is up and welcome back to another top 10 list for Marvel Rivals. In today's video, we're counting down the top 10 villains that should be added to Marvel Rivals. Now these villains can be part of a theme for a season like Doom is, and I'll talk about Doom later, but some of these could just be added in the game as is. I don't really care, I just want to see all 10 of these characters in the game at some point. All of them being menacing villains in the Marvel Universe. Like always, I have 3 Vanguards, 3 Strategists, and 3 Duelists, with one that could fit into any of these categories, but I want you guys to decide in the comments where they belong. So wait until the end to hear that last character. With that being said, if you guys are new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and like the video and comment down below what villains you want to see in Marvel Rivals. All right, let's get into it. Let's begin with our 3 Vanguards, which are going to be MODOK, Thanos, and Emma Frost. Starting us off on the Vanguard side is MODOK. I've seen tons of people request this character, and honestly, I couldn't agree more. MODOK is one of the most iconic villains in Marvel, in my opinion. I mean, he even got that ridiculous Hulu show, which if you haven't seen is dumb, but honestly, I think MODOK is the perfect addition as a tank. His primary fire should be a steady energy beam coming from his forehead gem, and with a character like MODOK, whose entire hitbox would be his head, I think headshots are only fair if the hitbox is that little forehead gem, just to make it a little bit easier on the person playing as MODOK. His first ability would be his hover thrusters, giving him a short burst of flight, allowing for some repositioning on the map, and his second ability being a mental barrier that creates a force field that blocks projectiles but allows allies to shoot through, just like a typical barrier for a Vanguard character. His ultimate would add some extra tech and size to his, I don't even know what you call it, like his chair, or is that like literally him? Honestly, just add some extra armor and some guns on the side, gaining extra shield, protecting the entire team, and just rapid firing those psionic blasts from his forehead gem and from those extra guns. That would be how I would want to see MODOK in this game. Our next Vanguard is the Mad Titan Thanos himself, who honestly deserves to be the season villain at some point in this game, but adding Thanos would be so badass, and he deserves to be a Vanguard. His primary fire would obviously be a giant melee punch, or we could give him that sick double-bladed like sword thing that he had in Endgame, which was super cool. I think that would be perfect. I've seen a lot of people talk about Thanos and whether or not he should have the Infinity Gauntlet, but I think we should save his Infinity Gauntlet for his ultimate move, where he can snap and destroy whoever is alive on the enemy team, or he could snap and destroy half of the entire lobby, whether it's teammates or the enemy team, which would be super risky, but would make some insane plays in the competitive space. But I think for his main attacks, we should just stick to regular Thanos. He is very powerful even without the gauntlet, but his ultimate move has to have the gauntlet. Our last Vanguard is Emma Frost, who I think would be a really cool Vanguard, because normally our Vanguards are these really bulky characters, but Emma Frost obviously is not that. But her diamond form would give her so much protection for her allies, where you could be shooting her like crazy and nothing would be happening, because that diamond form is so powerful. Now there is also some hints towards telepathic abilities in the comic books, so exploring that path would definitely give her more options, such as sending energy pulses, kind of pushing enemies away for repositioning, or creating illusions, or messing with the enemy's controls for a certain move where their buttons are all messed up and backwards. That would be really cool. Her ultimate is definitely going to be that diamond form, and maybe we could bend the rules a little bit and give some extra shield to our allies as well. I know that doesn't exactly go with the lore, but it makes for better gameplay. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, now let's move on to the Duelist characters, who are obviously some of the most fun characters to play as. On this list, I have Dr. Doom, Green Goblin, and the Super Skrull. Now, for Dr. Doom, his primary fire would be his gauntlet blast, shooting some normal plasma bolts at the opponents, but his alternate fire would be able to chain lightning attacks, so you can shoot something at a wall, shoot it at the ground, and then you can connect them, and anyone that walks in between would get hit with this lightning attack, which would be really cool. His first ability would be reflecting projectiles, because obviously this is something you're gonna have to do a lot in a hero shooter, and his second ability would be able to summon Doom bots. I mean, if we're having Dr. Doom, we gotta have some Doom bots, kind of like Loki, where he can deploy 2 robots that attack enemies. And for his ultimate, he would need to do something kind of similar to Iron Man's, but his ultimate would be enhanced if you had those Doom bots out. So if you have both Doom bots also on the map and you shoot that blast, they're gonna shoot the same blast at the same spot. So you can either do one blast or you can do some setup stuff and you can get 3 of those attacks at the same time, dealing tons of damage. I mean, this is a DPS character. Now, this next character is gonna be my favorite, but if you guys like videos like this, make sure to subscribe because I will be covering more Marvel Rivals content on the channel. Now, with Green Goblin, this would be such a fun character to play, especially if you like Junkrat in Overwatch. This would be a character that can fly around the map like Iron Man, launching pumpkin bombs as his primary fire, doing tons of area damage as well. His alternate fire would be those razor bats, sending out mechanical bats that do bleed damage over time. His first ability would be a glider dash, where he can boost into enemies dealing damage or leaving a trail of fire, which would be super destructive. His second ability though would be really cool, where he does a trickster trap, where he deploys a proximity mine that looks like a health pack. So if the enemy team doesn't know the map good enough, they might walk over a health pack and then it just blows up in their face, which would be perfect because if you're looking for a health pack, you're probably low on health anyway. And his ultimate would be super cool, where he just goes berserk and he gains tons of speed and drops a ton of different pumpkin bombs all over the map, where he just boosts in a direction, dropping pumpkin bombs all over the enemy team, which would be super annoying. You would not be able to get out of this giant drop of pumpkin bombs. The last duelist on this list would be the Super Skrull from the Fantastic Four series. This would be a perfect character that combines the Fantastic Four abilities into one duelist instead of having to play Vanguard or Strategist, using a primary fire like Mr. Fantastic's stretchy ability for a whip attack, or his alternate fire, which would use the Human Torch's fiery projectiles, or another ability where he can use the Thing's slam that stomps the ground, knocking back enemies and dealing damage, or his other ability, briefly becoming invisible using Susan Storm's power. His ultimate would be activating all 4 powers at once, gaining bonus damage and resistances from different like poison attacks or bleed attacks, and just using all of the different abilities all at one time against the enemies, dealing lots of damage. I think this would make for a very unique meta, using the different Fantastic Four abilities all wrapped up in one character. All right, moving on to our 3 strategist characters, which for this video would be Mystique, the Spot, and Mysterio. So let's get into it with Mystique. Now, Mystique would be quite the broken character, and I'll explain why. First of all, we need more mutants in this game. I love the X-Men, and I love mutant characters in the Marvel Universe, so Mystique is a welcome addition in my world. First of all, she would have a primary fire like a rapid single-shot gun, like a pistol or something like that, with an alternate ability where she can morph into enemies and use their projectile fires, which would be quite unique and kind of hard to play against, with her second ability being a genetic regeneration, where she can heal herself over time without taking damage. And Mystique would be more of a strategist character that is strategy wise, not so much support. I know strategist is just another word for support in this game, but if we're calling them strategists, I think there's more strategy than just healing your allies. Moving on to her other abilities, like her ultimate move, which would be similar to Loki's, but we're gonna differentiate it in a second. First of all, she would be able to impersonate an enemy character, but Loki impersonates an enemy and steals their ultimate ability. So if you're going up against an Iron Man, for example, he can take Iron Man's ability and use his ultimate. But Mystique can choose any character on the roster, whether or not they are in the game or not. So whether or not your allies are a character or your enemies are a character. If nobody is playing as Moon Knight, Mystique can still choose Moon Knight and use his ultimate ability, which would be super annoying to play against, especially during blocking heroes for competitive play. This would make it very, very difficult because if, do you want to block Mystique or do you want to block a character that Mystique could turn into? This would be very confusing for the enemy team. So that's why I think Mystique would be definitely in the strategist category without necessarily being a healer, if that makes sense. Our second strategist would be the Spot, which after seeing Across the Spider-Verse, I definitely want this character in the game. I know this would make the game a lot harder coding wise, but it would be so much fun. His primary fire would be a portal punch where he throws a punch, it goes through a portal and hits where he's directed, but that would be super annoying to play against. And his alternate fire would be a shield that he can put up that's a portal that the enemies can shoot through that will redirect bullets back at them, which would be super annoying, but he can't keep that open for a long period of time. To give his allies some health, he would be able to open portals that open automatically to a health pack, the nearest health pack wherever he opens that portal, which would be super helpful, or shooting portals above allies that drop something that would look like something that would heal them. I don't know, like a snack bar or something. I don't know. His ultimate move would be surrounding the battlefield with portals, making enemy attacks chaotic and unpredictable. So the enemy bullets are just going everywhere in front of their own faces, but because those bullets went through a portal and came back out, now those work as your allies' damage. So if they shoot and it comes back out a portal, now it does damage to themselves, which would be super annoying as the enemy. But the Spot would be super complicated. It would definitely be a 5-star character because it'd be very hard to learn all of his different tricks. Our last strategist for this list would be Mysterio, who would be a very interesting character in a game like this. His primary fire would be a stream of gas that disorients enemies. He would definitely be able to kind of shift their view and make it look kind of wavy, like they're drunk or something like that, which would be crazy. His alternate fire would be creating a fake enemy clone to confuse opponents, which would be like, wait, am I supposed to be shooting at this guy or shooting at that guy? Kind of like Loki does. I think a really cool ability called Smoke and Mirrors would be able to create a smoke screen that subtly blinds the enemy, not fully blinds, just subtly blinds, but this smoke also heals your allies. So your allies want to go in the smoke where they're also hidden, which would work like, it's like 2 birds, 1 stone. It'd be really, really cool. His second ability would be a vanishing act where he can briefly disappear and reappear near his allies, kind of like a teleport basically in a way. His ultimate ability would be a hallucinogenic nightmare where all of the enemies in a certain zone are completely blinded. They have no idea where they're looking and they're automatically facing towards the sky. So they can't just shoot in a circle and, get a couple lucky hits. Once they get into that mode, their character automatically looks at the sky. So they have to figure out where the regular line of sight would be. Meanwhile, this also heals your allies massively, which would be super helpful. But Mysterio would be another character that would probably be a 5-star, maybe a 4-star character. Trying to learn this villain would be insane. Now we are at the final character, which I think could fit either in a strategist, a duelist, or a Vanguard. Honestly, this character could fit in either category, but I also want to say thank you for watching this late in the video. And if you guys enjoy this content, make sure to share, like, and subscribe and comment your guys' thoughts down below. With that being said, our wild card pick is Nightmare. Nightmare is one of my favorite villains in the Marvel Universe, and I was really disappointed that they weren't the character that they wanted to go with for the villain of Doctor Strange 2. But with that being said, Nightmare is somebody who can cause different, obviously, nightmares against opponents. His primary fire would be Shadow Claws, where he just slashes the opponents with this spectral energy that looks really scary. His alternate fire would be a Dreamfire Blast that fires a very slow moving ball of dark energy that drains enemy health. So even if, they get hit with it for a second, if they stay in the line of sight with that ball, they are going to be slowly losing health, which is kind of hard to play against. His first ability would be a Fear Wave, where he can send out a shock wave that briefly stuns foes so they can't shoot for like a second or two, which makes all the difference in a game like this. His second main ability would be a sleepwalk ability, causing the enemy to uncontrollably move forward for a few seconds. So if an enemy, for example, is on a payload and you use this, they are sleepwalking away from the payload now, which would be super cool. And with a character like Nightmare, I'm gonna say screw it. His ultimate move needs to be a twisted, messed up jump scare, kind of like the Mysterio ability I talked about, where the opponent's screen just goes dark and something actually scary pops up. This would make Nightmare a very scary character to play against, because at any moment that enemy Nightmare could attack you with his ultimate and you're getting jump scared, which in a game like a hero shooter is very out of the ordinary, but I think it works perfectly for this villain. He's one of my favorite villains, and I'd love to see Nightmare in this game because he deserves more recognition. So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Those were the top 10 villains I personally want to see in this game. I think some of them might have been hinted towards in the files and stuff like that, but with that being said, you know, I just want to see some more villain characters in this game. We have a lot of heroes. We have a good selection of villains, but the more the merrier in my eyes. With that being said, let me know down below in the comments what you guys agree with, what we should change, and if you guys enjoy the content in general. Like I said, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure to check it out. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, as I'm trying to reach 30,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. So if you want to help me with that goal, click subscribe. With that being said, have fun, be respectful, and as always, thank you for watching. Peace.